You've entered the Houston Running Zone, the ultimate podcast for runners in the Houston area, featuring the everyday runners who inspire us, clubs, gear, races, and runcations. Houston, we've got the runs.
All right, today in the zone, I have a 11-year cancer survivor, Boston Marathon runner. He's been featured in Runner's World, ESPN, E60, Today's Show, Wall Street Journal. We can go on and on. Houston Chronicle. But here to share us the details of his final race and what we would call a stroller victory lap, and we'll kind of get into this as well, is Iram Leon. Iram, welcome to the zone.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for spending some time with us. I know we just saw each other on your final race of the victory lap. We'll kind of get to that, but a lot of people don't know your story. And if you Google your name, obviously a lot's going to come up, but you pretty much had a brain cancer scare 11 years ago. Obviously, you're living it day by day, but you're making the best of your years. And can you kind of take us back and how it changed your life and kind of how it changed your running career? What happened 11 years ago?
So 12 years ago, actually, I started training for my first marathon, and I only ever intended to do one. It was kind of a bucket list thing. And then it ended up not going so great towards mile 22 of my first one. So I decided to go for a second one. A year later, it took me a while to think about it again, but a year later, I was training for my second marathon, and right at the beginning of that training cycle, I had a grand mal seizure, and they found me just on the floor. It was at a coworker's birthday party. I had just had I ruined her birthday. She always heckles me about. And all of a sudden I'm rushed off to the emergency room where it's this test and that test. And then all of a sudden we need to do a biopsy, and the results were supposed to take a few days, but they actually ended up taking a few weeks and came back as brain cancer. Yeah. I kept joking around that. Well, I'd say the suspense was killing me, but if something was killing me, it probably wasn't the suspense. And, so while I'm still there waiting for all of that, I just kind of kept running. In fact, I actually snuck out of the hospital the night before the biopsy to get my training run in. And that's
a true runner right there.
And I did the mileage that it calls for that day. That's what we call OCD, runner's OCD. And but it took me a little bit to get running, but I kept running. Not really sure while I was sitting through all these tests, trying to figure out the path. It was near the memory and language centers. And so whether or not how to proceed was a serious question, because if you do enough damage, you lose memory and language skills, and you're not really human anymore. So I kept running. I wasn't allowed to drive because of the seizures. And running really was more therapeutic. It was like the one place where things kind of felt normal. And so I had a race signed up. The very first half marathon I did after that was the Decker Challenge here in Austin. It was one where they just hand you the next bib when you show up, and they gave me bib 911. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't even have to put the emergency number on the back. You guys put it on the front. Wow. And so I ran that, and, as we were trying to figure out what to do, it took a while. It took a few weeks to get through all the tests and drugs and treatment. But I finally decided to do brain surgery. I went out to Duke, and my doctor calls, hey, we'd really like to do this here in the next couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, I'm going to marathon in 5 weeks. Can we do it after that? And he says, well, that increases your risk of this and that. But, depending on how the surgery goes, you may not have another marathon. And so that was the Austin Marathon. It was the first time I would ever qualify for Boston. And so kept running after surgery. Luckily, things went well enough to where I was able to get back to my running. She started hitting some PRs because it was just therapy. But, one of the things that happened was that I became a single dad through all that. And I was the primary guardian of my daughter. And I started running with her just because it was either that or leave a 4-year-old at home. So I wasn't going to do that. So originally I'd have friends come over, and then I started running with her, and we signed up for a half marathon. I got my mom to do her first half marathon at age 60.
Oh, wow.
And
Awesome.
Her only half marathon. She's like the 5K and 10K sensei. Yeah. And I did it with a stroller, just started in the back, just intended to do it relaxed, and started gunning it towards the end, and ended up coming in second by 5 seconds. but I'm not bitter.
Nothing to prove at that time right now. Yeah.
But we kept doing it, and I knew that it would be kind of a limited time because I had started so late with the stroller. She was, almost 5, just a couple months shy of being 5 by the time we started racing. So I just started trying to do as many races as I could, 5Ks, 10Ks, 30Ks, mostly locally. But then I wanted to do a marathon, and there was not that many marathons. Almost every marathon I asked, which said no because they wouldn't allow strollers. So
it's very hard to find one. Yeah.
Yeah, because of, I don't know, it's some rules or insurance or for whatever reason, and I just respected that. But there was finally the Gusher Marathon in Beaumont was kind enough to let me in, and it's a double loop, 13 miles, and I go out there, and after the first loop, I'm all of a sudden by myself, and I asked the bike person, I'm like, hey, what's going on? How far back am I? And she's like, oh, there's no one in front of you. And I would actually win that marathon 1 second slower than the one I'd put off brain surgery for. Literally, that stroller had cost me 1 second. I missed my PR by 1 second. So,
still not bitter. Yeah.
Still not bitter. It's, my therapist and I talk about it all the time. But so we got to do that, and that's what resulted in some of the media pieces you talked about. The Wall Street Journal, the ESPN, all these things. For me, all I wanted to do was run a stroller with my daughter. Run a marathon with my daughter in a stroller, and so the literally international attention was quite flattering, but not at all what I intended. And it resulted in some cool invites where we got to do some races both around the state, and we got out to New York and different places where I got to speak. And
yeah. So how many races in total did you do with the stroller, or do you know?
I have no idea. So Kiana has all the medals hanging up on her bed, and it just takes up a ridiculous amount of space. So probably with a stroller of, I'd say 30 or so.
In a 5-year gap, 4-year?
No, in about a 3-year. In about a 3-year gap.
Okay.
About a 3-year gap, and the very first time I missed the Austin Marathon was actually to run the 5K of it next to her. But, as things kind of quieted down and she was kind of too big for the stroller, I actually, the race that I retired the stroller on was the first one, the one that I said that Bib 911. And so I had, and actually, oddly enough, I did it faster with a stroller a few years later than I had done it that year. I hit 123 on a pretty hilly course out with the stroller out there. And that's where, she was getting too big, both for my comfort and her comfort. So that's where we put it down. But, and so that was also, ESPN actually filmed that race. And a whole lot of races were kind enough to invite us. I think just a month before that, we were out in Houston at the LaPorte by the Bay half marathon, which is the most I've ever gotten past because that's a really steep bridge. It turns out when you're pushing a lot of weight, people can gain on you real fast.
Yep.
And so both going up, both times going up and then going down, it wants to go faster than I can. But once the stroller was retired, we weren't done yet. Obviously, with some of the times I was hitting with the stroller, that garnered more attention, but that was never what it was about to me. It was always this family time. And so over the last 7 years since I retired the stroller, Kiana has obviously the COVID suspended some things, but she was in junior high. But we slowly kind of just went back to some of those races, and it didn't do on all of them the exact distance, but we did the race on some of them. We did a shorter distance on one of the marathons, the Waco Marathon. We did the marathon. What's it called? The relay. Yeah, and I did most of it, and she did not do most of it. so she tagged off. And
was this your idea or her idea to say, "Hey, let's do every single race again"?
No, I don't know. I'm not even sure I ever told her that. It was just kind of like, and so we went out there and we went back to Gusher. We did the 5K, out there. We went back to all of these races. Not all of them continued. Sometimes races fall apart, and so some of the races that stopped existing, we couldn't get back to. But and she actually trained and did her first half marathon. Was the one I retired the stroller on, and the first one that I did after the Decker. So she had done 3 half marathons and just had kind of gotten back to all of these races. And the one that's at UT, the Longhorn Run, and it was just kind of, for me, it was a very just kind of exciting point, because for me, when I started doing it, I wanted her to have good memories. I didn't know how long I'd be standing. The median survival rate for my cancer is 7 years, and the 10-year survival rate is 12%. So, I'm a poker player. You bet on the odds. What you hope for and what you bet on don't always match. But
yeah, well, it's a better payoff with less odds. So yeah, better payoff.
Right. There you go. There you go. I never thought of it that way. I like it. And so, but I just kept doing it, and so we were actually going to be intended to do Laporte in 2020, but with all the COVID stuff, and I had to be cautious because my own immune system from issues, like we kind of stayed away from any races, and I'd missed it. And then as we signed up for this year's Laporte, it occurred to us as we were getting ready. I had actually just done Boston a little over a month before, had to break 3 to qualify, and Kiana had been doing cross country for all of junior high and their first year in high school, and her first, cross country for girls is a 5K. I guess it's a 5K for everybody at the middle school level, maybe. But so her freshman year, she started in junior varsity, her first couple meets, and then bumped her up to varsity. And her team made regionals for the first time in years, and she was actually the first finisher of her team at regionals.
Wow. As a freshman, that's awesome.
As a freshman. So yeah, so she still likes it. And then it occurred to us as we signed up for Laporte that we had never done a race for fun together. We had, so she asked actually after her cross country season ended if she could run one with one of her friends who was further back in the pack just for fun. And it didn't occur to me that you did races for fun. I'm pretty competitive. We both are. And originally I was like, no, you don't pay money to just have fun. You just go run with friends for fun. But it took me less than an hour later. I was like, hey, I was wrong, kid. And we signed her up, and they had a great time. I actually raced it. I won my age group, and then I waited for him. But as that thought came through mind, as we were getting ready for Laporte, one, she was just a shorter season. So she hadn't been in long distance training, but every race we had ever done together, one of us was gunning it. I was either gunning it behind her in the stroller, or when she was running, I was facing her. So, but she was gunning it, and I was going easy because she runs slower than me still. That day may change soon, but that's still the current case. And so we decided that for the very last one, we were just going to take it easy. We hadn't even set any type of goal or pace. And so it was just going to be for fun. And we were just going to take it in. And Laporte, the first time we did it 7 years ago, it poured rain. There's this great picture of us. And there's this rain just splashing all over me and her. And I think I finished it faster just because I was like ready to be off that course.
Yeah, rain, wind. I'll put a link to the Houston Chronicle article because that's a great photo.
And that was actually, I think, the only race that we ever did in the rain. Now that it occurs to me,
really?
So it was the second. We did one post rain, and where we got splashed from the wheels, but not one actually in the rain, and it was a gorgeous. It was a little bit warm, but it was a gorgeous day. We were taking it easy, and so and when we were up on the bridge, I'm like, "Take it in, kid." And one of the things that Kiana doesn't get to do, because in cross country it's not allowed, is to run with music. Not in her training runs, not in anything, because you train the way you're going to perform is what I always say. Yeah. So I don't let her. But back when we did the stroller days, I'd have the phone on with music, and it went back and forth between like music that I liked and then music that she likes. So sometimes you'd be getting Frozen followed by Bon Jovi.
Nice.
And so I had a little surprise for her that I hadn't told her about. We were about half a mile from the start, and I got my phone out, and I never run with my phone. And I put on a playlist that I had made that had a bunch of fun songs, some that we've come to like since then, some from those days. And I just put it on speaker because this was a race that was for fun. So it wasn't competitive. And I started singing along. She's 14 now. And so when I was singing, she was like, "Stop it, Dad, stop it." And she finally, a couple miles into it, she just kind of smiled. She's like, "Okay, Dad, you can sing." And these days, she just had her first hair dye. Half her hair is one color, half her hair is another color. And like there were volunteers and spectators that were going, "Nice hair," and I kept just looking and going, "Thanks." And when they were obviously they were obviously talking to her, and so she just kept rolling her eyes like, "Dad, they're talking to me." And
you are in the Houston running zone. We've got the runs.
But, we took it in, and it was actually interesting to me. So on both of the parts where I got past the most, going up the bridge, we've worked hard on hills. I think that's a big difference maker. On both the uphill sections, she sped up. I don't know if she realized she was doing it, but she sped up and passed people on both sides going up on the bridge.
Wow,
and I'm like,
awesome.
wow. So the fastest pace we had in the entire race was on the steepest sections, because I think we do hill repeats all the time. And then when we had about a quarter mile to go and we could see the finish line, we'd been taking it easy, and we made a goal, like, let's keep about a 9-minute pace. We made about 10 minutes before the race, which is, she's hit 140 something. I forget exactly, 142, 143. Forget what her PR is.
Wow. Yeah, nice.
And so, but I'm like, let's just try to keep under 2 hours. Let's keep about a 9-minute pace. It's kind of what we decided, just to have some idea of what pace to go. And when there was about a quarter mile to go, I'm like, there was a guy in front. I was like, let's just pass this guy and finish hard. And I thought like that meant we would go to like an 8:40 pace. And she dropped me and finished like a good 5-6 seconds ahead of me in just a quarter of a mile. And I tried to keep up. I just was not ready for that bolt. And she went from 9 to like her cross country pace. I went from 9 to like 8:40. And I'm like, okay, well, I just meant let's pass that guy. Not like let's
victory lap. She's got to beat you. She's got to beat you.
and it was really interesting to me. So after we finished, I gave her a big hug. And so after a whole lot of our stroller races, I would get very emotional, and sometimes those emotions were excitement, sometimes they were happy. It was always thankfulness to just be alive. And on this one, I actually just kind of breathed a sigh of relief. And then when I was no longer hugging her, she was emotional. She was like, she got it together really fast, I think, because there were people around, but like she was teary eyed. And I'd ask her about that later, because I didn't want to bring it up right there. But, I think it was just kind of, I think the moment hit her. And so, yeah, we got it done, and it was just fun. We stuck around. This was a great race to finish it on, because they had great food and drinks, and I'm usually pretty like disciplined about drinks. I'm like, you can have all the Cokes you want, you can have all the food you want, and,
yeah, it's like, free. Let's do this. Yeah.
This was just the victory one, and so we did that, and we have this. It's funny because of all the races that I did behind her, or that she's done by herself, hang on her bed in her room. But literally the centerpiece of my living room is all of the races that we've ever done together. And some of those are the races that we've done together that are kind of revisiting that. And some of them are races that we just did together that we never did behind a stroller. And that's when I got emotional, when I put those on, when those were put on, and just kind of seeing like that. And I'm a lot more proud of those races that we did side by side. I know that those don't garner the same kind of attention, but that was always the point to me. It was just the family time. It was just the joint thing. And, and Kiana had a bad cross country race this year where she thought like, and it occurred to me that I had never said it to her. I was like, kid, I don't care what speed you run. If you slow down and run for the rest of your life, that's a whole lot better than if you like are afraid that you burned out and all of a sudden, I've got plenty of friends that I ran with that had lots of talent. Then once the talent started to fade, and they stop running and get out of shape. And to me, this is about health. I both my local doctors and my Duke doctor sent me this study about how long distance runners have a higher survival rate. And I generally think it's why I'm alive, and I told her that, and I had never said that to her, but that's always the way I've thought about it. We both happen to be good at it. And so it's easy to go have fun when you're winning. But I think that, that for us, that we get to keep running, and I hope she keeps doing it, and I generally, I think that the the races give you a good goal, and the medals are fun, and the festival atmosphere. And certainly, I love the community of runners that has come with it. Some of my best friends that I'm sure I'll have to whenever I die have come from that community. But it's just, sometimes people ask me when I started running, and my answer is the same time you did, shortly after I started walking. It's just a natural intuition. The question is when you stop, and I don't ever want to stop. I hope Kiana never stops.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, you've gone through a lot, and obviously the whole cancer thing, and then with the stroller, then without the stroller. But obviously, that you need something on the calendar or some sort of goal or something. Obviously, what's next? Because there has to be something. And it's definitely on your mind.
Well, so Kiana's doing track in the spring, and so we actually did a turkey trot just a few days after the half marathon. That was on Sunday, and Thanksgiving was on Thursday. And Kiana let me know, yeah, this one's for fun too. My legs are too tired. I raced it. I won my age group, took 10th overall. But so there's always something. I mean, I've actually got a race come early January. That's at Dakota. It's the Decker Challenge this year. The same one I actually talked about. I'm not an advertiser, I promise. But this year, because of it's actually at the racetrack where I've biked and I've watched cars, but I've never ran it. It's got a lot of hills.
Nice.
So we'll see how that goes. But I think that's kind of what keeps me motivated, just to have an event. And that's what I struggled some during COVID without events, because I stopped doing as much speed work or running as long distance, because I'm always trying to beat you, not the clock. And so that's my motivator is my PRs are always when there's someone near me. But on that race that I told you, my mom, when she did her first half marathon, I went back out there and to finish with her after I'd taken second by 5 seconds, which I'm not bitter. We covered that. But I went back out there and as I went out there, it actually started hailing, and they were tearing down a water stop about 3 miles to go. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh, everybody got on the bus. And I'm like, are you kidding me? My mom quit? And just as I said that, she came around the corner, and we mostly walked, but kind of jog walked in the last few miles, and the last quarter mile, she bolted hard. And, she would be the very last finisher of that race that day. And, I'm more proud of her for that day than she's ever should be for me winning any race. That's where it is. You just got to keep going. You got to keep going.
That's awesome. Yeah. I wish Beaumont was still around, because that's how I officially, found out about you, because they had your story, and then they had you at the start line with a stroller, which is crazy to have a stroller to start line at a marathon or either way. Yeah. That was nuts. And there's so many races that are gone, and hopefully more new ones are popping up. But out of all the races, what would be like your favorite?
When people ask me about my race, my favorite races, it's always the next one. Nice. It's always the next one. I don't live in the past. I don't have any DNFs in my record. No matter how good or bad the last time is, I'm about the next one, because spending a whole lot of time looking back is a poor use of life. Maybe there comes a day where there's nothing good to look forward to, but with all the mistakes and all the hardships that have come in my life, that day hasn't come yet.
Yeah, I think in whether it's sports, business, everything, people look to the future, not the past. That's a good point.
Yeah, the past is good for lesson learning, but if that's where you're getting your happiness from, that's not the life I want to live.
Well, I'm thinking 12 years ago or 11 years ago, I should say, that you could have been like, well, end of running, let me live in fear instead of live in abundance, which is really cool. What would be like the most challenging? How about that? Would it be the Waco where you had to carry the stroller up the stairs?
Oh yeah, I did a race where I had to, and we did it 2 years in a row. And the very first year, in the very first year we did it, I just picked up the entire doggone stroller and carried it up, which almost, I don't know, it felt like 3 years, but it felt like a quarter mile of stairs. And then I got to the top, and just exhausted. I was apparently in third place at that point, and ended up in 10th place. Lost so much time and exhaustion there. Most people don't take the stairs; it's optional. And then the next year, I went back to do it. And when I got to the stairs, we practiced it with some stairs that were in Austin, and we practiced kind of getting up and running up the stairs while I carried the stroller. I was like, why did this not occur to me the first year? She's not an infant. She could have beat me up the stairs, and she did, because I'm still trying to carry the stairs. And then, the last time we did it, she also did the stairs. And so, we've gotten to, that's probably the toughest, is carrying the stroller up the stairs. Deck is probably the most consistently tough course that we did, but Waco's the one that we did the most, actually, outside of Austin. And we did the turkey trot several times. I won the stroller division 4 times, and it was kind of fun, because I'd hit around 29 minutes with a stroller, and you'd be passing people at the end who'd be like, I'm getting passed by some old fat dude with a stroller.
Yeah. Well, technically Kiana won, if you're going for gun time, she technically beat you by a half second.
No,
so there you go.
She always beat me. Always.
There you go.
I'm like, yeah, that's actually what I always say about Gusher. Like, people think I won the marathon, but I came in second. I got beat by some, 5-year-old. So
yeah. And you were drafting behind her too. I mean, really,
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, I know you got 2 minutes before you have to go, so I'll ask you real quick, and I'll shoot you a text a little bit later on. We could go on and on, but I want to make sure you get back to your event. So I'll do 3 quick questions. Called it the lightning round. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Well, I already kind of asked what's your favorite race, but how about what's your dream race? Like, there's a race that you've always wanted to do. It's on the list. Which one would it be?
Wow, I've gotten to do pretty much every dream race. I've gotten to do Boston and New York and those kind of things. I have never gotten to run a marathon in another country, but there was a race that has gotten canceled twice that I hope to get to someday. So I was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, and I didn't know actually this till a couple of years ago. There's a race there it was essentially the Mexican Grand Canyon. It's actually bigger than the Grand Canyon, but not quite. And so they have a race that goes through that. I was supposed to be there in March of this year and March of last year. And I hope to make it. And it just kind of feels like it all kind of comes together because, running back where I was born. So that's my dream race. I hope to pull that one off someday. Wow.
That's awesome. Well, let's go a little bit basic on this one. So any must-have race gear, there's something like you have like a lucky pair of shoes or a lucky gel or something like that. What's your must-have race gear?
So I race in whatever I train in, but the shoes that I race in the most are the Convaras, because when I won the Gusher Marathon, they were brand new pair of shoes. I realized that my old race shoes, I didn't have them. And so I put these shoes and never had worn them before. It's the only time I've ever raced with a brand new pair of shoes. And I won them, so they become my go-to shoes. It's literally what I did Boston in a couple of months ago. So it's still the shoe that I'm like, I got to keep doing that.
All right, cool. So did you keep the shoes that you won your first?
I did not. I did not keep them at all. I don't remember. So I had this odd tradition. Any shoes that have been from, I always take, I'm going on a trip next week. I always retire shoes when I'm on a trip. I'll do one last run somewhere cool, and then I'll throw them away. So there was a pair of Convaras that I took to Boston, and then I ran, I was there the day afterwards, and then I threw them away. And so I leave them in a hotel trash can. And so I've been on all kinds of trips, where I've been to China, I've been to Brazil, and there's always a pair of my running shoes left in these places. It's kind of an odd tradition, but I'm like, their last run has to be somewhere fun.
That's like spreading your running ashes, but they're stinky shoes. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, one last one before I let you go. What's your favorite culinary guilty pleasure? It's got to be guilty though. None of that healthy stuff.
Oh man. Oh, chocolate is my weakness. It's funny, people ask me, when you found out you had a cancer, did you change your diet? And I'm like, I did, but it's not the answer you want. When I thought I wasn't going to make 40, I just turned 41 this year. I'm like, I started eating a lot more dessert. I'm like, because I've always eaten healthy for athletic reasons, but I'm like, if I'm not going to make 40, I'm having more dessert on the way out. So, but pretty much any dessert that has chocolate, if you put it in front of me, man, I'm made out of willpower, but anything out of chocolate, you're not going to even get a touch of it by the time I finish it.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, I'll definitely put a link up to Houston Chronicle. There's a lot of things. Maybe the ESPN video. If I could find that, I'll link to that one as well. So
I can shoot you a link if you need it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sounds good. I'll let you get back to your event. I appreciate your time, and hey, I'll see you soon.
All right, man. Be good.
All right, have a great one. Thanks. As always, if you know someone that could use this information, please share it with them. And if you want to become the first to find out about upcoming weekly episodes, simply hit the plus or follow button. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Stitcher, where you can leave us a rating or review, we'd love it. And more importantly, looking forward to sharing another episode next week.
Thanks for visiting the Houston Running Zone. If you know someone you'd like to be featured in the zone, go to thehoustonrunningzone.com and send us a message. Until next week, always remember, Houston, we've got the runs.